Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Artcasters number 235. I think that's the correct number, anyway. So yeah, we keep pushing along. Corona, no Corona, whatever. We're still. I don't think we've missed an episode in a while, so we'll keep at it. But anyway, so we got an awesome guest, which we will get to in just a minute. But first of all, as usual, we'll just kind of go around and introduce ourselves. If you're not familiar, I would assume since you're watching this, you're on my channel, so you probably know who I am. But if you don't, I'm Scott with Circworks Art Labs. You can find my work at circworks.com. I don't know if I have anything really to promote other than just to let people know that on my YouTube channel, it's also Circworks on YouTube. I just wrapped up the Making Comics 101. So there's a full series from, soup to nuts, everything you need to know about making comics, about 17 hours of content. So that's there, and that's all wrapped up, and now I'm moving on to other stuff. But yeah, check that out if you haven't. And I don't know, you're watching this channel, so I don't have to mention what that is. And the other thing, at my store right now, all my digital products, including all my comic tools and things like that, and my comic books, the digital versions of my comic books, they are all 40% off. And I just released a new product, the Hero Design Studio, which has templates and all kinds of different, you can basically build your own character template using different eyes and noses and capes and all kinds of stuff. And then you kind of use that as a template, and you can draw over and create your own costumes and all kinds of stuff. So that is available right now, also 40% off. So check that out. And I'm going to move over to my co-host, Josh. Josh, how's it going?
Pretty good. So you can check out my art and music at joshuakemble.com. And then you can check out a very brief preview while the thing's being shopped by my lit agent to different publishers of my autobiographical comic about faith and mental illness that I hand write, hand letter, and hand ink, and hopefully we'll hand to you someday in print. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, also, this is like the new thing. There is a brand new album that's like a folk indie album that's called The Bottle of Better Than, and that's THEN, not better than. It's pretty good. I'm pretty proud of it. I just released it like 2 days ago, and you can get that on Spotify, on iTunes, on Apple Music, and I think most music streaming platforms. So like if you want to check it out for free before purchasing it, you can check it out on Spotify and just kind of give it a listen and see what you think. But yeah, that's my weird thing. It's like kind of known art, but whatever.
Yeah, because I actually went there to the link, and I didn't see maybe I just don't know, because I don't usually buy stuff off Apple Music, but I didn't see a button to purchase anywhere, or maybe that was just me. So okay, I saw where I could preview this stuff, but again, maybe I don't know. I wasn't logged in. Do you have to be logged? Maybe you have to be logged in to do that. Usually okay.
You got to be on your account, but I'm not.
That's probably why.
I'm not frankly sure. I think that Apple Music sends you to iTunes to buy it, and then it loads to your Apple Music. I don't know, but anyhow, if you have a subscription to Apple Music, I think you can listen to it for free. So I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, that's super exciting, Josh. I'm anxious to. I've heard some of the rough cuts, but I want to hear the final stuff. So I'm anxious to get that. All right, we've got an awesome guest. I want to get right to David, and let me find let me pull it up. So David Hartman does a lot of different stuff, but I don't know, David, is there anything you want to briefly, we'll definitely get into a lot of the stuff that you do and some of the stuff, but briefly, if you just want to give just a quick rundown of what you do, and if there's anything that you want to promote, anything that you got out there. I know you got online stores and all that kind of stuff, so cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I draw monsters and dead things and horror for the most part, but with a tinge of fun. Yes, I'm my comic book. I have 2 graphic novels out, The Adventures of Bright. I work mainly in animation, and I've really been pushing a YouTube channel now. So if you go to Sideshow Monkey Art on YouTube, you can see a lot of my process drawing vids. And right now I'm doing a creature double feature. So I draw 2 monsters, and then I do a drawing of them fighting at the end as a surprise. I just did Bigfoot versus Chupacabras, and it's fun.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I mean, and there is a link in the description to David's YouTube channel as well. I know up here we've just got the website, but and plus his website's got links to all his other stuff too. So, so definitely check. And we actually got, like I said, let me go in here to the comments. We've got a couple. Where are those? Let's see. Yes. Oh yeah, here. So we've got Crimson Owl Comics says, "Oh snap! I just started watching his videos last week. Awesome." And
awesome.
then
Thank you.
Peter says, "Nice work." Oh, I'll have to watch. So he hasn't watched it yet, but he's going to. All right.
Cool.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, definitely check out if you like monsters and stuff. Definitely check out David's channel. So yeah, let's get. So the topic today, I usually give our guests the opportunity to come up with a topic if they want to. And I think David picked a good one that a lot of people, I think, can relate to, because one of the bits of advice that I always give is, kind of niche down, pick one particular thing. But there's a lot of pushback with that. When I like to do all this other stuff, I like to do all kinds of stuff, and it can be done. And David's a pretty good example. But I think you'll find that even though he does do a lot of different things, even if you go to his website, you'll see it's very cohesive. And like he says, he draws monsters, and that's what you're going to see. Even though he does, you might be producing like a Winnie the Pooh cartoon or something too, while he's working on Rob Zombie videos, which you mentioned. So David's done a lot of different things, and like I said, I don't know how you discovered me. Did you just because you actually reached out to me and like, sent me your books and everything, and I was like, oh man, we got to get on the show.
Because I was just searching for, like, I don't know about you guys, but I just like putting on some art videos while I'm drawing. It's just inspiring, right?
Yeah.
So I was just looking for some stuff that was some comic stuff, and I came across some of your shows, Scott, and I was like hooked immediately just with the opening, the imminent, like I was like, okay, this guy, I love his stuff. So, and I was just hooked because you were showing the ones I immediately related to were like, you're doing a lot of independent comic stuff, like even like how to put together ash cans and stuff. And it's like, I've had published work, but I still make ash cans for myself and things. It's just the passion behind it, and I could see that. I was just hooked. So, it became one of my favorite YouTube channels ever. So I had to reach out. It's
good to know that people are actually finding me on YouTube, so I mean, sometimes I'm like, man, I wish YouTube would push my stuff out a little more, but people are finding it. That's always good. So,
but isn't that always the case with guys that do like what we do? We're always kind of got to fight a little harder to get our stuff seen,
Oh yeah.
So like I said, David does all kinds of stuff, and I want to kind of get into that and kind of figure out how you do juggle different things. But we were talking a little bit before the show, and you were saying how you were from was it, you say Ohio?
Ohio, yeah.
And you were just one of those kind of follow your dream things, move out to LA with $100 in your pocket.
Yeah, it was the classic Hollywood story, And but I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
I went to a fine arts school, but luckily it had a course in kind of like special effects makeup, and I thought I was going to get into that. I really wanted to get into comic books, but I was constantly told I got to work on my anatomy and my technique. Like my technique just sucks, and even in my art today, it's real sketchy. Where I finally tried to grab that technique and own it.
That's kind of what I do. It's like, I know my stuff's not, it's not going to be what Marvel's into, but I like.
Yeah. After a while, I just said, I don't care. I want to draw for me and what moves me. I don't want to draw like what Image Comics was asking for back then. And once I did that, then I started getting noticed. It was really weird, and Rob Zombie reached out to me, and I got this opportunity to come out to LA to work in animation, and they gave me 24 hours, and I was living at home with my folks. I just had graduated college, and my parents were on vacation, and I was running my dad's store. I was doing accounting of all things. And they just like, hey, you got like 24 hours to get out here. I was just like, I had to say goodbye to my friends and follow your dream, and came to LA. First thing I did, go to Target, get an air mattress, and and the rest was history.
You didn't have any friends out there to stay with or anything?
No, I had a friend. Yeah, actually,
that's usually how it works.
Yeah, it was a friend I met in high school playing Dungeons and Dragons, and he became my best bud. But he got me my first job out here in LA, and let me hook up with, stay at his place for a while. So that was really cool.
Nice. Those are tight bonds. Just
but I never wanted to get into animation. I was in it in college and high school. I worked at an animation place. It's like, I just can't draw the same thing over and over. Disney offered me an internship during college. I was like, I'm not going to draw your mouse over and over. It was just like this college angst. And then my buddy was like, hey, I just got this job doing storyboards. And he's like, you'd be great at that. And I was just like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's kind of like drawing comic panels. And he's like, yeah, but you don't have to finish them.
And
I was like, hey, for a guy that couldn't take his technique to the next level, that's perfect, right? So, and then I was like, wait, you pay how much? Like healthcare? That's a thing? And I've been there ever since. So
but then they spring those storyboard deadlines on you, like, it has to be done tonight at like 3 hours from now.
That's where my good old Midwest work ethic came in, and I was pulling all-nighters left and right, which in hindsight, technically I should have been paid double time, overtime for it, but I was just trying to get my career going, and it was all about making the guy above you's job easier, because he's always going to keep you around and move you up. And I really had a fortunate experience where I got in, I was doing storyboards, and within my first year, they offered me a director position.
So you probably never had to do the actual tedious animation stuff, or did you?
Well, we're working like in California, like in mainly Burbank and Glendale area. We got DreamWorks, Sony, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. So it's kind of like this, I like to always kind of call it like this little inbred industry where we got our little clique, and guys kind of jump around, and we get to know each other, and new people come in, and we all kind of help each other, and we jump from show to show. But that industry is like, most of the animation's done overseas, like in Korea or Japan, even the Philippines.
Even in the 90s, was it that way too? Or
yeah. I mean, even then, a lot of that was happening, with like Deke and Klasky Chupo and those places. But Nickelodeon did a lot, and of course, Film Roman with Simpsons, they were doing a lot of their own animation or layout. But for the most part, it's like there's storyboarding, and it's all posed out, and it's kind of the main storytelling, but it does go overseas for that. So for me, I never knew that. Like, so when I realized with storyboards is like, I don't have to draw the same thing over and over again. It wasn't about technique. It was about how do you tell a story? Yeah. And that's what always drove me. And I've been making short films since I was, my first camcorder when I was a kid, and I still film stuff almost every weekend. And that's how it got me into the movie stuff and visual effects. And I got the last Phantasm film from that franchise. And, everything kind of all, to me, is like one universe getting to do all this stuff. But for me, everything circles around telling a story. I just like, like I'm talking your guys' ears off. I just like to tell stories, and
it's sort of, in some ways it parallels what and it kind of went in a different direction and everything. But I used to do the same thing. I used to make, I made my own like Saturday Night Live skits, and I tried to do little special effects and puppets. I was big into, Henson and all that kind of stuff, and did all that. And some of that, what I did back then, it comes in handy like with the YouTube channel and everything. So it's like, and man, could you imagine if YouTube was around when we were kids? I mean, we would have killed it.
I'd either be arrested or
you
know, or a millionaire.
It's like on one hand, I probably would have made a lot of stuff. On the other, I may not have had a career in the future.
It's true. Kind of circling back to, you know, the point of the conversation, like wearing too many hats. It's like, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. You know, but I don't necessarily believe in that. For me personally, and like you said, Josh, like I got like 4 music albums out. I got another one I'm doing. It's I don't know. To me, it's all telling stories and it's all kind of the same. But I get burned out pretty easy on certain stuff. And once drawing became my job, like in storyboards, I was longing for that escape. Like, what's that? Now it's a job, right?
Yeah.
And we've all had those jobs or commissions where you're just like, dude, I am not into this. This is not my subject matter. Yeah. But you gotta pay the bills, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just getting tired of getting into like a rut. Like I do comics, but then I'd be like, you know what? This month I'm into doing my music. I'm gonna focus on that for a couple weeks. But I just do it in these little spurts while I get inspired for it. And then, you know, within 6 months you realize, wait a minute, I did a comic. Mm-hmm. I got a new music album. Like you got all these different things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, I beat myself up because I'm like, I want to make movies. Had the opportunity to make one, and that was a lifelong dream of mine. But I could have went and focused into that territory a little more. But I still like to draw. I still like to do these animation, pays my bills, you know, so it's really weird, but I do believe in broadening your horizons because, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Josh, like with music, I kind of see it as drawing in my head. You know, you got your fast, scratchy lines, you got your smooth lines, and it all kind of works together. So like music, but for me, comics, I'll do things in comics. I'll be like, you know what, that could be really cool on this next short film I'm doing, you know, live action. Or I could experiment with a camera move and go, that will be awesome in animation and no one's done it before.
Yeah.
So you can kind of experiment and bring the things you learn from all of those into your art. And, you know, it's taken me a long time to kind of, I'm still learning, but to kind of cohesively, in my mind at least, it's bring it all together into one kind of world.
Yeah. Hey, David, are you familiar with Jeff? No. I was just kind of looking at the chat. Are you familiar with Jeff Lafferty at all? His channel?
I don't think so.
Okay, so he actually started the Artcasters a while back. It was we had a different lineup. He started it, but he's doing his own. He's doing the Make Comics or the 100 Days of Making Comics, which is where you spend the whole thing. So, but he's doing a thing, and I was just on his show the other day, and so there's some talk in the chat, and I just found this interesting because evidently I think you're more popular than you might think on YouTube. Because where's this one? Jeff was asking who he should interview, and I said David Hartman. So this is a great surprise. That's from Keith Harper.
Thanks, Keith.
So yeah, I mean, Jeff's doing that thing. I think you guys would get along swimmingly because he does animation and comics as well. Yeah. Another frequent guest, and we do some other stuff too. Our friend Corey Kerr, who's sort of the unofficial third member of the Artcasters. He's doing crazy stuff with animation, just like he's like found ways to streamline everything. And I'm sure you're probably familiar with all this stuff, but he's got all these, I don't know what it's, toggles and sliders where he's able to animate
where he's
around and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think once you kind of break into this community, you're going to find a lot of friends and stuff that are doing similar stuff. So.
Well, it's fun, and I don't know about you guys. I just like to make stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that, I've been able to find a way to monetize that. You know, I can have a good job, still be creative in it, but still have enough time to have the fun stuff, you know, which is the YouTube stuff. It's like, you know, I'm not personally into it to make money and all that, but it's just, I love to share art.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
we all have a little ego, or it's nice to be told that someone likes your art, you know, and it appeals to someone, just even if it's just one person. That I get so giddy over that, you know. It's like sharing artwork with your friends and stuff. And you know, it's kind of weird, like going back about like the mini jobs and how different they are. It's really bizarre. Like I've had a few times where I've had people that were fans of my art, were also fans of the animated shows I've done, like Transformers Prime and Winnie the Pooh, and I was on like Jackie Chan Adventures and done a lot of stuff like that. But they didn't know I was the same guy. Like they thought there was different David Hartmans, and it's pretty interesting. I got hired for a job. I guess I can talk about this now. It's so long ago, but it was like they wanted to do like a Terminator animated thing, you know. I was like, oh, we'll call it Termination. You know, it's like, and they did like a Matrix one, you know, like that, and it was kind of like pitching it. And I was working for like Sony Pictures at the time, and they brought me in, and we were in big meetings and all that. And then I get home, like, and there's like an email from this guy I just met asking like, hey, I found your art on DeviantArt and we love it and think it'd be great for this series. Can you come in and talk about it? So I go in the next day and they're like, wait, we just had a meeting with you yesterday. I was like, yeah, I was wondering why you guys, it was kind of weird that you were wanting to have a follow-up meeting so soon, but
So was
of course
was
the project never went anywhere. But
yeah, well, so was this was this going to be an animated Terminator or?
Yeah. I think it eventually became that show, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the live action show, but I think originally they were thinking like more of an animation thing, you know, save some money. But
yeah, because I was curious because there's, you know, I know, well, this is before you got in the industry, but I know in the 80s there was, you know, a lot of, you know, taking these R-rated movies, and in order to sell toys, they had to build a kid show around it. So they had the Rambo.
Yeah, and then they ruined it, like RoboCop, you know, opening his chest and making a pizza. It's like, no! Yeah. RoboCop never did that.
So I was curious if that was, they were trying to do the same thing with Terminator, an animated Terminator. So we never got the animated Terminator
cartoon.
So, but yeah. Man, that's really cool. So, so you move out to LA. You start working in animation. You're doing all this other stuff, and then I don't want to jump too far in the future because I know you said you directed the most recent Phantasm film in that franchise. But so let's see. I'm trying to figure out where I want to go with this. I mean, that's the problem when you do so many different things.
And it's weird, and I feel like such an a-hole, you know, because I don't want to come off like I'm bragging. I've just got to work on so many great projects, and I'm proud of that. But I hate to like name drop these.
No, but it's cool because you're so personal, and you've got this amazing career, and you've done so many amazing things, and you know, and that's kind of what I tell people is just that, you know, don't be afraid to reach out to people, you know. So you reached out to me, but then you know, I'm looking at your stuff, I'm like,
and that's really it. It's networking.
And then, you know, I'm looking at all the stuff you do, and I'm like, wow, he's the real deal, you know. And so it's cool just to have somebody on with your pedigree and everything like that.
Thank you. But it's all about networking, you know.
Exactly.
I was watching your videos. I mean, like, I was like, oh, I want to meet this guy. I love his work. I love everything you're doing, and you're promoting this kind of positive outlook to drawing and stuff. And that's what I've always looked for as a kid, you know, and stuff. And my parents would send me to private art teachers to get me to stop drawing monsters, you know. Like, okay, I'm drawing flowers, but then I draw like Bigfoot holding the flowers, or I draw, you know, a zombie, like, and they, you know, my mom was like, okay, so You know,
yeah, you can look,
see if he ever makes $1 doing that.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. 'Cause, like, I was like the worst student in school, and you know, I mean, I can pull out, and I've done this on older videos, but I pulled out like the comics I drew as a kid, and you flip the comics over, and they're all like my math assignment, my math handouts and stuff. So I'm just taking all those. I'm drawing comics on the back of them and everything. You know, stop doing that. You can't. You're never gonna make a living doing that and everything. It's like, okay. So, but yeah,
you know, to kind of get back to that, like just another anecdote with the networking thing, like how I even got the Phantasm thing was originally I was working at Sony, and I don't know if you guys know of the comic book Lenore, the cute little dead girl by Roman Dirge and stuff. And Roman came to Sony and wanted to do a cartoon, so I got to make this cartoon series with him. And during that time, one of my editors was friends with this other editor who was having problems with some After Effects stuff that he was doing. And he came to my editor friend, and my editor friend's like, oh, so the guy making this movie, his name's Don Coscarelli, and he's coming in. I was like, oh, that's the guy who made Phantasm, Beastmaster, you know, these movies I grew up with. I was like, yeah, I want to meet him. So I meet him. He sees some of my artwork, and he sees I'm doing some visual effects kind of stuff for the animation, and which I was learning for myself for my own short films and just applying it to the job. But then he was just like, hey, can you do wire removal? And I was like, hell yeah, I can do wire removal. He leaves the room, and I start Googling how to do wire removal. It's like this opportunity that I'm like, that's not going to fall in my lap ever again. And what do I have to lose? I'll just say yes. And then I did it. He was happy. And he ended up making me visual effects supervisor on the film. And that was for Bubba Hotep, which I don't know if you guys seen that movie, but one of the greatest modern classics, you know, with Bruce Campbell. And, you know, for me, that was a dream come true. But because of that, I became friends with the director, and I'm sending him these short films I sent just to stay in touch. It's all about networking. But, you know, today's like one of my best friends, and I got the chance to do that movie, you know, because of these connections that you make, just kind of stepping out of your comfort zone a little. I mean, not in a creepy way, but it was kind of like, if an opportunity is offered to you, if you think you have the chops, you just don't know how.
Yeah,
you know,
and usually there's something,
you can find a way.
Yeah, and usually, I mean, just having experience in animation and everything. I mean, if
I already had something behind me that I mean, somebody to do the job, but
can you do? We need somebody to do some you know, surgery or something. That probably wouldn't do it, but if it's
don't do that.
In the art thing, I can probably
don't do brain surgery, kids.
So yeah, let that be a lesson to anyone. When those opportunities hit, you educate yourself real quick and you say yes.
And then you figure it out, and then you stress out. Don't stress out. Like, I had a friend who always told me, he's like, don't say no until the deal's been fully offered to you, and you know what everything is, because things fall apart. So don't be that guy that said no before all of a sudden you found out the budget has doubled and they need something else. You know, that doesn't always work. But, you know, it's something I try to live by, just to simplify things and, you know, not miss out on opportunities.
Yeah. And I think the thing about networking too is really interesting, because like, I have a couple really close friends in the animation industry. And it's like, it really does seem like a good rule of thumb to not be a dick. Like, that's kind of the biggest rule.
The guy that's working for you is possibly going to be your boss on the next job, right?
100%.
And you know, the shows I'm working on now, my boss was my storyboard guy on one show, and then on another show, I was his board guy. And it's, you know, it just depends on the job and all that. But I don't know. Yeah, it's life's short. We're drawing for a living, cartoons with friends. It's like
anytime you're making a living doing creative, you're cheating, you're cheating the corporate system a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like that's something I always try to remember, because there are days where you get, like, at least for me, like there's days where I'm working creative and I don't want to be at work. I want to be at home.
My own stuff. Don't get me started on executives and corporate. That's a rabbit hole for a whole nother show.
You know, and I'm on the clock and I'm drawing, and that's pretty cool. Like, you know.
Yeah, it is. Even if it's not something you don't want to be drawing, you're still learning from it. It's out of your comfort zone, so you're going to learn something from it. Just, you know, I tend to look at like, okay, I drew Winnie the Pooh like this. Now, how can I incorporate that into this dead corpse over here? You know.
Yeah, well, even in your book and reading your book, I mean, I see where you've got, because you've got the one little stuffed animal with the brain coming out, or all that. I mean, so I see, you know, you can see these little bits and pieces of different things that you probably worked on where it comes through, because it's just this, you know, monsters and then all these eccentric characters and this crazy world and everything. So that's the kind of stories I love, just stuff that you just, I mean, just totally,
and that's all kind of like it's just like whatever comes out as I'm drawing. I'm a terrible, like, I write scripts, but even in those comics, I kind of just do it page by page. You know, like each page, I look for that one panel that sells that page for me. Mm-hmm. So like each page can tell a story, but stand on its own merit. You know, like going to comic conventions, I'd see the original artwork hanging up, and it's like, oh, I want every page to be one that could hang up there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that doesn't work for every kind of storytelling, but the kind of stuff I'm doing where it was more visual than probably the intellect that's behind it is, you know, that worked hand in hand a lot better with that kind of comic.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always feel like if you're going to work on personal work, like the weird thing is like, so like if you're on the clock, right, and you have a deadline and it's like, you know, you need to get a show out, like there's no time to practice, and you're going to have to let stuff go sometimes that you're not happy with, you know, but
that's the story of my entire art career. Quantity over quality. But, you know, but back in the day, like that was like, kind of like what you're saying, and with storyboards, it worked in my favor because I could be loose and rough and draw quick. And in my mind, I was a complete failure, that I couldn't put a nice technique, and I would get, you know, crappy grades in college for my technique. They're like, your color treatment is horrible. You must be colorblind. Your line work is crap. Or you inking this with your feet. And it was just, you know. So in my mind, I was like, I can't take anything past a rough pencil line, right? And then, you know, using the crow quills and stuff, and you know, you're getting that constant splatter because I just push so hard when I draw, and it's just like, oh man, I suck so bad. But then in animation, it was able to be loose, and it's like, okay, this is working to my benefit. I'm able to knock it out fast, and at least the proportions are there, and the basic anatomy is there, and perspective is there. So, you know, all the fundamentals were there. I just couldn't take it to a cleaner level. And to be honest, it wasn't until I started working digitally that something clicked for me personally, with color, because I could experiment with color where I was scared to death before. If I'm doing an illustration for school in gouache, I'm not going to take chances putting glazes on things or well, you know.
So you can't mix with that either. You're pretty much stuck with whatever you lay down.
Exactly. So, so I was scared to death, but then when digital came around, then I could experiment with my inking. And then when I go back to a brush and ink, I'm able to take those same kind of techniques I could experiment without being scared of ruining a drawing. Back to that. So it's kind of backwards. I guess, but it helped.
Is as you develop that ability to kind of see it through, it's like on your personal work, you're like what you were describing about kind of individually approaching each page like it's supposed to be the one that could be like hung on a wall. And I think that's the kind of, like, I actually really relate to that, because like when I work on my own personal stuff, it's very much like that with singular pages. Whereas if I were doing it for a client, I would make it the best I could within the time and budget they have.
Right. Yeah, and then you have to let it go. And I have friends who've worked on like one painting for years, and it's like, for me, I just got so many things up here. I don't get it out that
that's a level
I'll do a drawing. And I'm like, I'll see the mistakes in it. I know this is bad. I know the perspective's wonky. I know. I will take that and apply it to the next one.
I had to.
This piece was that time of my life in my brain where I was at, and it's a scrapbook of where my talent was at that time.
I like that.
And I'm not going to keep redoing this one piece. It's not, that piece isn't worth it. Find that piece that is worth redoing.
Done is better than perfect is kind of the phrase that gets thrown around a lot. And I know, and I've talked about this a lot of times, but like the comic I was working on before the one I'm doing now, Young and the Dead, it never got finished because I would do 3-4 pages and then I'd be like, I'm not happy with that, and then I scrap it and I start it again. I've shown those pages even on the series that I just finished. I've shown where I've got 4 different versions of these same 4 pages, and I never got done. And it wasn't until I just decided, you know what? If I'm ever going to finish anything, I have to not worry so much about the flaws or whatever, and I kind of change.
Just got to commit and move on,
and just put it out there. And it's so much better to have a finished piece.
But I'm sure, Scott, like after that, you found some other pages after those pages that you fell in love with that you might not have ever got to if you stuck on those ones. You never got to see what else you're capable of until you move on.
Yeah, I like that. I also like, to me, it's also just a matter of you can overwork things a lot too. Like,
I'm definitely do that still.
It's about like the painter is spending 2 years on a painting. It's like potentially that could be a masterpiece, but it could also be something that was good a year ago and now is just mush, like it's destroyed. Or it's too perfect and there's no like line and movement to it. So it's like,
well, and I've seen so much of that where somebody just draws this like really fluid, beautiful underdrawing. It's just like, wow, that's gorgeous. And then the stiff line work on top of, this kind of action figure-y rigidness to it. And it lost it's what made it so special and different than anything else. And, that's not to say I'm not making excuses to not finish your work, but it's just, you learn sometimes, like, as you get older, and, and you just like, okay, that piece is done. That's as good as it's going to get, or I'm happy with where that is at and what I learned from that. And now let me apply those same things to this next drawing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So as far as kind of, getting kind of back to the topic and everything. So now you're doing all these things, but I'm kind of wondering if we could get some more practical idea of how you juggle all this stuff. You've got all these different things you want to do. How do you kind of, organize that? So, you're meeting your deadlines on your animation, you're getting work done on your comic, you're doing, like, if you wanted to, do a little film or whatever else you're doing, how do you do that? Because I was asked that same question on a podcast just a couple of days ago. And I was like, for me, it's like I've got ADHD, and it's like my superpower. Right? It says if you want to get done,
the same way.
If you don't have ADHD, then get it, because it was all through high school. Like I said, I was a horrible student. It did not do me any good during grade school. But now, once you learn to kind of hone that and change it into a benefit. I mean, that really helps out, because I'm the same way. I've got a number of projects at a time, and I've just found a way to organize it. So I say, well, either these hours I'm just going to work on this, then when I get tired of that, I'm going to move on to this, and always keeping that deadline of whatever I'm working on in mind. Yeah. But is that similar to what you work? how you work, or is it?
Yeah, and, you know, for every completed project I have, there's 1,000 uncompleted projects.
Yeah.
You know, all over. I wish I could show you my floor with all the bad drawing ideas or stuff. It's a tough question, because now that I'm a little bit older, you know, like when I was in my 20s, I had the stamina to just, I was able to like focus on something, but at the drop of a dime, switch over to something else, right? Yeah. And focus on that. And, you know, again, with animation, you kind of got to do that. You might be deep into a scene. They're like, you know what, that scene just got cut and we got this new one. Here's the script. Start from scratch. And, you know, that's the kind of stuff where you just kind of got to do it.
Yeah.
Now that I'm getting older, you know, I'm getting a little more, you know, tired with certain things, but I like to have it. I don't know. I take baby steps on stuff. And I think when you do this when you're younger, when you actually get the high of the completion of a project, right? Whether it's a comic or a painting, whatever, but you got that thing that you're like, I'm done. I can show this. Yeah. But then, I don't know about you guys, but the next day I look at it again, I'm like, I hate this freaking thing. I need to make something better, right? And so you jump on to the next thing, but then work calls and I got this crazy deadline and I have to focus on that. So you kind of I prioritize things a lot, you know? So I got my job, you know, and it's way up here. And then I got maybe my YouTube channel, because I got stuff that I need to get out to people, but then I got some personal art, and then I got this film idea I'm slowly working on. But if I get these other 3 things done, I can type a few sentences of this. But if I get inspired for any of those things in that list, they jump up. So even during my job, I know I got a lot to do, but if I get inspired for this drawing, I might just do a rough and just push it to the side and say, that's my reminder that I'm going to come back to this, but I got this idea and I want to flesh it out later. And that inspiration for that drawing may not even come for another couple days, you know, or something, but I always like just having something. And I think, you know, whenever I do take time off, I'm just going crazy if I'm not doing something. And maybe I'm really destroying my health by doing this, you know, but I just got to keep on making stuff. I got too many ideas in my head.
You're in good company here. You're in good company.
It was about 10 minutes before coming on here. I was literally having a conversation online with a friend of mine who was like asking why I was insane enough to make an album, like right after finishing a giant graphic novel and then finishing the nightmare. Like editing a proposal is really a headache. And so I got through all that, and then I'm like, I finally have this window of time, and I felt uncomfortable, and I'm like, I have to make something. I'm going to make an album.
Right.
Back to art. But to me, that's a break, because it's like, it's a little different for art. And
kind of going back where you say you got your job, you know, and once that drawing becomes that job, then I needed something else to fall back on. And some of those things are attainable goals, quick attainable goals, whether just drawing a quick illustration on Procreate while I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. I got these ideas. Let's use the inspiration of whatever's on TV to draw, or the music, you know, but just coming up with a couple riffs or a little ditty that I'll come back to and flesh out when I have more time.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's kind of like, it gets, like I say this to my storyboard artists and stuff too. Like, for me, there's like the thinking work and then what I call the monkey work, which is just, we just do, you know, like my name, Sideshow Monkey. It's just the little monkey turning the crank, making stuff go. And, you know, like with storyboards, like I like to get the thinking out of the way, which is read my script, draw on the margins, this shot, then this shot, then this shot, then this shot. that's the thinking. Then I can go back to those shots and it's like, okay, do they flow? Do these shots actually work? Does this make sense? All before I start really drawing.
Yeah.
You know, and because once I go into drawing, I like to go in my Zen state, and I like to just listen to music or podcast or what your show, you know, and just have this on in the background while I'm drawing. But I can do that without having to worry about the basics of storytelling or whatever I was trying to get across. I don't know. I get wordy with this stuff. Sorry, guys.
No,
but,
yeah.
You know,
there's
I think deep about it, but then I'll just go on the couch and I'll just draw freaking monsters. It's like, it's not really this deep, but
yeah. And I think
trying to read into it.
I think another bit of advice is that different tasks, you know, they do require a different kind of attention, whereas like I was talking before the show started, how, you know, because David was asking me if we work while we're doing this, and I said, you know, sometimes we do, but it kind of depends what it is, because I want to pay attention. And like, if there's certain things, if I'm doing a layout where I'm trying to I'm trying to figure out, you know, composition and stuff, that doesn't work so well. But if I'm just inking, so kind of know what your tasks are and work that into your schedule. You know, whether it's a certain time you feel better about doing certain things like that, if you can manage it like that. And then there's just certain things, like you said, there are times where you can have, like, I can have YouTube going while I'm working, and there's sometimes, especially if I'm writing, where I have to have, you know, all the sound off, or just, you know, music without any lyrics, or everyone's got their own thing, but kind of know, you know, because you have to, if you want to be, you know, productive, and you want to be prolific, and like you know, David was saying, I mean, you got all these ideas that you just want to get to, and a lot of times one of the comments I get is just, I just don't know what to make, and it's hard for me to give advice on that, because I've never really had that problem. I've got so many things that I've got a list of ideas and things that I'll probably never get to. So and when you have that, it's just a matter of, okay, well, what's next? How can I fit this in? Does this work with my schedule? Is this a time of day that I can work on this? I've got this other thing that I've got to do. Is this something, maybe it's something that I can do, like I've got kids, you know, they're older now, but there's still some things that I like to do with them. So, you know, there was a project that to create this digital product where it's still a little whiles down the road, but I wanted to create a like sort of a vintage, like, comic book pack that people can use to make their comics look vintage. So cool. My daughter and I, so my daughter and I, we took and we made it a project where we went and bought some regular newsprint, off the shelf newsprint, and we aged it. We tea dyed it and coffee dyed it. Cool. And we, you know, put it in the oven for a certain amount of time and got it that look and everything. And so now, so we did that together. So kind of think like that. I mean, you know, some people say that, oh, I got a family, it's hard for me to get stuff done. Well, if it's something, maybe it's something that you can get everyone involved in. So now I've got not only that, but I got her help. So it took me half the time. Yeah.
Well, so my very first YouTube video, if you go back to my YouTube channel, go back to the very first ones, I do this little series called Art of Monsters now, but it was all based on this one I did like 10 years ago. You know, I've had this channel forever, but I just let it sit there for 8 years. But I have this one where I'm just drawing, and it's my daughter, you know, and at the time she was probably like 4 or something like that. But just drawing monsters in brush pen and then handing them off to her to color. And then she would color them and show them back. And you know, my daughter now is, you know, in her teens, and we still, you know, when we go out to dinner, we take a piece of paper with us and we fold it up into 4s, right? And we make a little comic book, and we have these characters. We have like Grumpy Frankenstein. He's just this pissed off Frankenstein. And then he's got these pet rabbits that she draws. And I do a panel, then she does a panel, then I do a panel, and we kind of tell like a campfire tale, you know, and we still do that because it was such a memory of her childhood to do that stuff. And now it just means so much when we do it. But you know, it's like, if you love something, you'll make time for it. Right?
Yeah. And so you can make excuses, or like you said, you can make time. You can figure out.
And I definitely get burned out like crazy. Where there's some times where I'm just like, you know what, I'm drawn out. I have all these ideas. I don't care about them. I'm going to play Red Dead Redemption 2 for the next 2 hours, or something. Like you still got to take mental breaks. You just need to know when that break is over, and when you get back to what you love.
Well, and that draws back to community too, where it's like that network, like those connections of other artists that it's like that's one of the lifesavers for if you fall in a rut where you're like, I'm just gonna play video games all week. Because
right.
the thing is, like, Scott and then my friend Corey and I all kind of hold each other accountable to making sure we're all being productive in a weird way.
And that's awesome. And that's something that drove me to YouTube, because I see that community.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'd love, like, some of my friends back from Ohio, we would draw comics, right? And we're doing our full Croquill ink Bristol boards. But part of the fun was like, okay, every weekend we get together and then we take turns reading each other's pages, right?
Oh, nice.
Like, and that's just was kind of fun, and it's that camaraderie and the community. But at the same time, for me, it was like, okay, that page went off really well, and okay, this other page is kind of a segue to this next joke that they're going to see next week. And I can't wait to see their faces next week, but it kind of like what you're saying, it's that community that kind of, that gives you the drive. But, kind of pulling it back to the topic, wearing many different hats, it's kind of hard to do so many different things, because I have friends in different cliques who I get jealous of because they've made that their passion, right? This one niche, this one thing. And I'm like, I wonder if I could have rose, to that level if I just focus on just that. But if I did, I never would have done this. So, I get caught up in that stuff mentally, but I try not to, because I just want to just make stuff, and the audience will kind of find you, I think, a little bit. It's kind of tough, but I mean, that's how all my opportunities have come, is just chance encounters with something else that I happen to know at least a little bit about. And the first one's free, but you pay for the next one, kind of thing. And, so you meet people, and you, if you're passionate about it, you just build it up. But, for guys like us, the fortunate thing is that we've all been able to have some sort of career in art, or some way that we can focus on that. I got many other friends who have that focus on art, but their careers were not so generous in that way, or demanded more of their time, and they kind of either lose their drive or their skills or what. And that's always kind of tough. So I constantly think about that, and I feel very blessed and fortunate to had the opportunities I've had in the career I've had.
Yeah. And it's funny to me, in the sense of like there's a ton of people who would meet you, David, like who would be like, your career is amazing. It's mind blowing. And then there's guys you would meet that you're like, oh, my career doesn't, you know what I mean? Like one thing that's interesting is like,
the grass is always greener on the other side.
No matter where you get, you're usually looking to other people for whatever that next rung is, of like what you aspire to do. And I think that's pretty interesting, because like I've even experienced that meeting guys who've like been nominated for Oscars and stuff, and they're just like, dude, this guy's work, I want that career. And it's like, like, I mean, you like
you're at the top of your game, and
but it's like I think the common thread is like all of us want to do kind of our own. I think a uniting thing is like we all kind of tend to want to do our own thing, as well as make a living doing creative, and hopefully combine the two. But but like the nice thing is like to me, I feel like if you're balancing that effectively, and then you kind of stick at it, you end up with some cool stuff you can look back on and go like,
absolutely. And there'll be some sort of opportunity. I truly believe if everyone does that kind of thing. There will be some sort of opportunity at some point if you're passionate about what you do and you work hard at it. I truly believe there's some reward. You know, there's always the classic painters you hear about who died penniless and poor, but their name lives on in history as some of the greatest masterpieces ever made. Yeah, it's a weird industry, you know, and I have a daughter who's like very artistically creative, and she's making stuff, and then part of me is kind of like, I don't know, this has been a tough, you know, a tough ride of fighting for these things, you know, lying about wire removal so you get an opportunity. Like, I don't wish that on, you know, my family members. So, but at the same time, I gotta realize they got the passion too, and if they stick at it, good things will come to them on their own. So
we do have a super chat, so I wanted to call that out. King Pro says comparison is the thief of joy, and yes, that is true.
Very true.
but yeah, so did you have something you wanted to comment on that, David? Or
no, go ahead.
Okay, so I was just thinking, because and Josh had kind of mentioned, you know, David with the stuff that he's done in his career and everything, but the thing is, and what people should realize is that, first of all, everyone's just people, and you know, and the other thing is where you know, I've never directed, you know, any animation, and you know, popular franchises that people know. I've never done a live action, you know, horror film in a live action horror, well-known horror franchise, that, you know, that type of thing. But, you know, like, you know, David's kind of getting back to doing YouTube, and, you know, in that area, you know, I'm a little further ahead. So, I mean,
absolutely,
no matter what you do, there's I'm sure there's something that you have that is, you know, of interest to maybe somebody that you may not think, because Josh has talked about this a number of times, that when he first got accepted into the National Cartoonist Society, and
that's awesome.
He felt like I
felt outlead, because I'm walking in there and it's like, okay, this dude directed Mulan, like this Boss Baby, and is like a multimillionaire now. Like, there's all these like wildly successful artists and illustrators, and then a ton of just, you know, industry guys who've gotten their laurels. But it's like, you know, the laurels get so high there that some like, I just didn't feel like I had a purpose walking in that room.
But everyone's creative, you know, and
but then I realized,
and better opportunities doesn't always mean better artists either, you know. There's a lot of luck that plays into things. There's also a lot of hard drive of getting your work out there. You know, I've been back in the early days of social media, I was just all over the place, just trying to get my stuff seen, right? And eventually it paid off. But, you know, I've been fortunate in a lot of stuff I got. A lot of other stuff I feel like I've worked hard for and I deserved it, you know. It just depends on you know, the opportunities, but there's always opportunities. There's always something. And that's where I think, going back to the topic, like, I truly believe in broadening your horizons. If your niche is being an inker for comic books, and this isn't being down on inkers for comics or anything, but it's just like, if that's your one niche, then you have to realize there's other guys vying for that job too. Some of those guys aren't even career inkers. They might be pencilers who are inking a thing, and you're always in competition with those. And in my mind, it was always like, the more I broaden my horizons, the more I'm opening those opportunities I'm talking about, right? Like the wire removal, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I at least had some sense of After Effects. And I've done After Effects to help my short films or my animation, and it's just like learning these things. But don't just do it because you feel like you got to do it to get work. Like, you got to have a passion.
And you don't learn effectively if you're forcing yourself to learn it. And then aside from that, like, that's also the worst kind of networking, where it's like if you're forced networking, it doesn't feel good. Where it's like if you're just kind of naturally building relationships with people, like that works.
Yeah, and you don't want to say you can do certain things, like Scott said earlier, that you might not be able to pull off, because then you might list yourself in a lot of areas as well too. I've seen a lot of. So you got to be able to at least confidently think that you can back up what you're.
I like my first in-house illustration job. It was like an education company, but I went in there and I kind of knew Photoshop a little bit. This is like back when there were a lot of artists who didn't know Photoshop or Illustrator. And they were like, yeah, we do everything in vector. And I like actually literally barely knew what vector meant.
Right.
I had opened maybe Illustrator once.
I still barely know vector. I was watching Scott's videos. I was like, oh shit, word balloons, vector. Oh, that makes so much sense. That's why all my word balloons are pixelated on my comic.
The first question they asked was like, and you're comfortable working in Adobe Illustrator, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm and I learned Adobe Illustrator.
Yeah, you can pick it up, and my God, we got YouTube here.
Yes,
like again, when I learned After Effects, and I've done a few movies now, not a whole lot, but a few just doing visual effects. It's like you can find tutorials on certain things, and they just take what you need from those tutorials and incorporate it into your current project. So like for me, it wasn't like I'm going to learn all of After Effects all tonight and read the manuals. It's like, no, I have a job to do wire removal. Mm-hmm. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know what all these tools are. I just need to know how to remove wires. Yeah. Once I get past that, I'll learn something new the next time. But don't overwhelm yourself with software, with tools, with techniques. Like, do what you need to do. If you're doing a comic, you got pencil, you got your ink, you got your crow quill. Just, learn the technique that you want to apply for that. And then, next thing you know, in a few years, you've accumulated a lot of different skill sets. And again, you can use those towards different things, whether it might be advertising. We've all had to do logos or something else, even though deep down we just want to do comics and stuff. But then, I had, many commissions where it's like, oh, this bank needs a logo for this checkbook they're making for children. It's like, oh man, but you do what you got to do to get your art out there and get seen. That story was true. And I actually had a girl found me 30 years later who posted that artwork I did, going, oh yeah, my dad commissioned you to do this. I thought it was so cool. And it's, it's just like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then all of a sudden I love that stupid kid's checkbook drawing. Yeah. All of a sudden, now it had meaning to me. Now it took 30 years to pay off, but it was worth it.
I love that.
Yeah, because I know. I recently did. Josh and I were involved in this anthology where we did this 4-page comic, and I said, so this is a 4-pager, and up until then I was, I kept saying I gotta learn Clip Studio because everyone says how great it is for making comics and everything. I said, well, this is only a 4-pager. I think I can try to figure out Clip Studio while I'm doing this 4-page comic. And so I did. And, and then I fell in love with that program. But like you said, I only learned enough to do what I needed to do. Exactly. There's still so much stuff with that program I don't even know how to do. And because I'm sort of new to it, I keep having to refresh myself. Like, how did I do that? And then go back and I read the same instructions.
I haven't got into the studio yet, but I really wanted to get into it.
Yeah, so the perspective tools in there are great, but I did have somebody share that I didn't even realize that Procreate had perspective tools too. And they showed me this perspective drawing, and they did. I'm like, oh man, that's pretty cool. So, but yeah, I mean, the stuff's the tools are out there, and it is kind of, sometimes they're
overwhelming though when you first open them up. And
like, what is this? This interface is different than, but it just takes that. And then there's also that, there's that kind of, I know if I could learn Clip Studio Paint, I could do my job in half the time, but that learning takes this much time where at this point where I am right now, if I just do it traditionally, it's going to take me way less time. But now that I learned it, it's like, and this is kind of the sad part, because now I'm doing a lot more of even my penciling, you know, and even some of my inking now I'm doing digitally, just because, you know, it's a lot quicker, you know. So, and I still love that feel of traditional work, but it just kind of depends, you know. So, and kind of like go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say what you were saying about the digital thing. Like, you know, I've kind of almost gone fully digital just out of the ease of use. Like as an artist, I'm just, as much as I brag about doing all this other stuff, I'm naturally the laziest person in the world. And I just try to find the easiest way to give myself more free time, right? And if it's learning something, because I know in a week I'll be able to spend more time on the couch with my iPad, and then I just draw, putting this thing on my chest, just drawing like a little kid. Like, to me, that's what it's all about. You know?
And, you know, like, there's another thing that kind of ties into what you guys are both saying, which is just this idea of like a project to be the way to learn. Because I think that, like, a lot of people will try to learn like After Effects, for instance, and they're like, I need to learn After Effects. And they watch every tutorial on After Effects, and they become experts in completely uncreative use of After Effects.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. You can get into script writing on After Effects to do certain things. And it's like, for my job, I barely ever have to use script writing, you know, in there. So, just learn what you need to do the job.
Yeah, come up with a project that's going to give you an objective to learn.
And at least those skills,
and those things,
you know, fortunately and unfortunately, we live in a time when technology is constantly changing so fast. There's still the steadfast of Adobe products, but even those, a lot of people are shying away from now and going to these, you know, iPad or other stuff. But to kind of go back to what Scott was saying earlier about, you know, doing your penciling and inking digitally, you know, one drawback that I constantly get angry about myself is I don't have anything to sell of worth except a print, right? There is no original anymore. And I miss that. I miss being able to, I got so much artwork, even if I just love drawing on crappy 8.5 by 11 copy paper, you know, like, that's still my favorite medium, is that and a ballpoint pen. And I got all these bent drawings and stuff, and I'm just like, I miss that. So, you know, recently I started going back to a traditional sketchbook. Like in Procreate, I got a folder in here that's all sketches, right? So I just literally do a sketchbook. I lay down the old paper texture and then just draw on top of it. But to me, I'm just trying to emulate the same thing I did in a sketchbook. It's just, I'm left-handed, so now I don't have to worry about the binding. That bumps my hand. Like, there's benefits, but then you don't have anything original, and there's something still about just a pencil drawing on a crappy piece of paper that's so magical. You know,
for a while, like I was doing before the pandemic and everything, I was doing a lot of comic book store signings, and it was, the signings are also just doing sketches for people and stuff. So that was a chance for me to actually get back to doing more traditional stuff. But I'm going to have to, now that I've kind of wrapped up that series, I want to start doing some more, marker renderings and stuff, because I love working with markers.
But it's weird. It's like, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, for me, it's like, I go so much faster. So like those comics, I think the style kind of changes in the middle of the one, where the first half of the book was Bristol board, pen and ink on that first, and then I'm sure you notice, like, towards the end, it all of a sudden gets a little more cleaner line, a little thicker line, like maybe it wasn't drawn as big, and that's where I went more digital, and which I regret that took place in the middle of a book because it's like the worst thing you can do. But, like we said before, I just got to move on and do the next one.
Yeah.
But
I've thought about
tough.
that too. Yeah, I've thought about that too because, when I get back to doing Young and the Dead, now that I'm more comfortable, I'm so comfortable doing stuff digitally, I'm worried about that looking different. So I think what I'll probably end up doing is just pencil it digitally, print them out, and then ink it, just because they're not going to.
So do you print it out?
Pencils were like, print it out like blue line, and then go over it in ink, because I can still ink. And sometimes, and I'm getting to the point where maybe I go back on what I said before, but I was always of the opinion that I could still probably ink faster, because you'll notice when people ink digitally, a lot of times they're making that same line a few times before they get the one they want. Whereas if it's traditional, once you lay that line down, it's down. So, but I did find that G pen in Clip Studio Paint is just beautiful. I mean, it's just awesome. I know you can probably adjust it and everything, but the setting, the way it comes out is just like, it's just got a little bit, it straightens your line just a tiny little bit. So it's not, you lose a little bit of the wobble, but it still looks freeform. I mean, it's just, oh man, it's amazing drawing with that thing. So yeah, it's a nice brush. So.
Tell me on it. I don't know, man. I still like, to me, this is obnoxious, but it's like, I just feel like I'm cheating if I finish a comic page and my fingers aren't black after inking.
No, and it is.
I always get smudges on my face.
I get that.
Yeah,
I felt that way for a long time, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just so much faster now, and I'm able to, get these ideas out faster.
Well,
I'm still waiting for that special one that I want to do the ink and go the whole 9 yards with.
Your story of getting rid of an art table and just having a couch, like that was like one of the most appealing reasons. I have the obnoxious art table here. And I'm like,
I had one for a long time, and I was just like, after a while, it ended up being more and more things stored on it.
Yeah.
And once I caught myself, okay, the angle was up here, now it's down here because stuff's sliding off. And then finally it was becoming storage, and I caught myself doing more digitally.
That makes sense.
And at my job, it's not, I still have a Cintiq and everything. I just have it on like a nice TV tray type thing that it can slide over a recliner. But I know this sounds horrible, but I'm at my most creative when I'm horizontal. So like if I'm laying way back, it's almost like I'm in bed, and that's when my ideas get going. And so I just knows I'm faster. I just draw more from my brain that way, because I'm not aware of my body so much. I know this sounds goofy, but when I get hunched over, I'm like, oh, my neck's hurting. I gotta take a break a minute. And it takes me out of the drawing, and then sometimes it's hard for me to get back in. So.
And we've talked a lot about kind of cartoonist injury and stuff, because the nature of our job is that you're going to get like wrist pain, and you're going to get that annoying thing right behind your shoulder blade, and
I'm getting the stuff with my eyes really bad now, which is tough. So staring at the computer screen, which is a bad thing too, but it's not much different than a light box. So used to do the light box where I pencil it like 3 times and then ink it,
Oh man,
it would lose something each time I did that. So
my process was, I would do each panel like on this, like you said, on like the 8.5 by 11 papers, and I'll get like the drawing I want. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I pull, and then I just have all these different elements for a comic, and then I have to take them and cut them up and trace over on a light table and basically build my page. And that was one of the other decisions. Like I said, when I first decided I said, I got to make a change or else I'm never going to get anything done. But I was like, no, I just have to draw everything on the page. I can't draw. I can't draw all these things separately and then put it all together, assemble it later. So
I did a comic for Image, a series with Steve Niles, who did like 30 Days of Night and stuff. And it was called Strange Cases. And it was with Steve Niles and writer Dan Wickline. And I love the series, but and I'm sure it probably shows in the comic. You can look it up, but like I drew it on crappy copy paper, but I just got 11 by 17 crappy copy paper. Right. So I still did it and then I colored it in Photoshop. Some of it gets really sloppy and fast, but it was like, again, it was those deadlines, right? Those deadlines that had for me to let go, because I did a lot in the color process and less in the drawing process, which I regret, because there's a lot of things I wish I could have done better on that series, but I'm still proud of what it ended up being. But it's funny because I talked about the originals and you can sell them, and it's like I have these originals, but nobody wants them because they're all torn to crap. They're like crappy paper. There's coffee stains and stuff like.
I was gonna say what you do is you just take some spray mount, spray the back, and then put it on like a Bristol or something.
Oh, that's a good. Now that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, no one's gonna know the difference. Yeah, that's what I would do. But yeah, because then you said that you drew it on there, like yeah, I could see that. The only problem is if you wanted to sell the originals, especially if it's if it's something image where somebody might actually want, and if it's attached to a writer that people like and stuff. So yeah.
See, my brain didn't go there. I was just like, I'm getting the draw. It was a monster stories, and Steve was such a cool guy, and we're getting I was just like, this is how I draw. So I kind of try not to psych myself out as much as I used to with that stuff. Yeah. Just jump in.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, because like even with animation stuff, like I was saying, like just to throw in another anecdote is like, I'm not a full, like I was saying, we're not like full animators. We're doing storyboards. We pose it out. We still have to draw, the pose here, the pose here. We're just not doing the in-betweens. But, Rob Zombie had let me do 2 music videos for him that were animated. And that's where I had to kind of really dig into After Effects and stuff. Cause I knew I couldn't, for the time that he needed it, I couldn't do full 24 frame, not with the tools I had at the time. Now, maybe with Procreate and stuff, having animation tools, could do that stuff faster. But at the time, After Effects was the way to do it. And, kind of give it that old Filmation style, or like the old 60s Spider-Man cartoon a little bit, where it's whole arms moving instead of, but you make, like, where I'm going with this is just kind of like, I just love those, and I do this in the animation too, and clearly in my movie stuff, but it's like just finding those things that you just know you're not going to be able to take it to that next level, right? And own it and find a way to make it work for you and become a style as opposed to a hindrance. So
it's like the limitations are what kind of sparks that creativity. When you offer it, when you put these limitations on yourself, that's when you start to find creative ways to find solutions to. Yeah,
to absolutely. And some of our favorite films from the 80s were made out of, creative choices and stuff, and like I love that stuff, and I envy it too, because sometimes I feel like we don't get to always do that. Sometimes I think it's better to work in a box. I'd rather get, 2 brown crayons and a green one, and someone say, okay, now draw me blue. Like there's ways of doing that stuff for them. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's late, but I just love, problem solving with that kind of stuff is just kind of fun. I think to find creative ways out of things. And I think that again works with the wearing many different hats and doing different jobs. It's a lot of problem solving, and finding ways to achieve these goals when you get these opportunities that we were talking about earlier. And there's ways to do that with just not being overwhelmed by software, not being overwhelmed by the tools. Just remember, guys hundreds of years ago were, making creative paintings or even cave drawings and stuff, and they were able to tell a story. It's like, take the things that work against you and own them and make them part of your style. Bring it to it. And
I love that.
yeah, I mean, maybe that's my own personal, because I couldn't take certain things, like I said earlier, to finish techniques that I wish I could. I wish I could have had Frazetta brush strokes and stuff, but I just know that's not where my art was going. I'm sure I could achieve it if I practiced that over and over, but I didn't want to just be a guy that could paint Frazetta on my own thing, So, and for years I was like, I don't have a style. And when I stopped caring about style and just drew, then all of a sudden people tell me, I love your style. I was like, really? Yeah. All I was doing was drawing.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Then it just kind of comes into its own.
Yeah. Well, you managed to bring it right back around, David. So, and we're kind of at our hour and a half mark. So,
cool.
Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you wanted to just slide in there real quick that you wanted to mention?
Not really. I mean, we covered a lot.
We'll definitely want to have.
And I'm
back.
Big fans of you guys. I've watched, the Artcasters. You sent me links. I've watched at least 10 of them in the last 24 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, dude. No,
I
was drawing a lot today. Let me tell you. But
well,
no,
okay,
seriously,
so awesome. Well,
it was an honor to be with you guys, and
we want to
seriously respect both of you guys and your work, and it's truly inspiring, and it's inspired me again. I feel again fortunate and blessed for the career I've had, but I'm having a lot of fun watching your guys' videos, and and that's inspiring, and it makes me, I have more comics stories I want to do, and then I get kind of down on it, or I psych myself out because I do have so many other projects going. But then I see what you guys are doing, and Scott, you're making Comics 101, watching those, it's just like, oh man, this is so much fun. That's where my heart is. I want to do more comic work. So I've been working on some stuff now. So
awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward. I mean, I would honestly, and I mean, you got to do what works right, what's right for you. And I know there are a lot of people that love speed art set to music and stuff. For me, I mean, I want to kind of hear the artist, so I would love to hear you give a little more commentary into your artwork and stuff.
That's my
because
goal.
Obviously you're comfortable,
and that's where the time thing. That's where the time thing.
I know.
Because I've made plenty of short films and stuff, and it's. I don't know about you guys. I can be a character on camera like crazy. I've made all these short films. I got to appear in some of Don Coscarelli's films. But man, when I have to be myself, I freaking hate myself, and all that stuff. So I'm like, nobody wants to hear me talk about monsters or what I'm drawing, but I really do. That's my next goal.
I think everyone watching right now would totally disagree. You're really interesting. You speak really well. It's fascinating to hear your perspective and stuff, and you have this awesome career. So I think you have everything going for you to really set time.
Challenge accepted. I am inspired, so I will definitely do that.
Yeah,
my next plan.
That's gonna be cool. All right, so let's kind of make the rounds. Josh,
cool.
You got some new stuff coming out. Where can people go if they want to find all that?
Yes, so there's an album. It's got 10 songs. Pretty good songs, I think. So just go to iTunes, Amazon, I think Google Music, Spotify, I think eventually Pandora. Like it'll pretty much be on every music platform. But look for Joshua Kemble, The Bottle of Better Than, and let me know what you guys think if you do check it out. I'm curious. And then other than that, just check out my artwork at joshuakemble.com. You can read a preview of my current graphic novel at quarterlystories.com. That'll do it for me. So, yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay, David, again, thanks for coming on. Where can everyone find your stuff if they want to learn more about
Sideshow Monkey is my website, but I don't always regularly update that. So Instagram, David Hartman Art. That's where I'm putting stuff mainly, but of course, YouTube channel, Sideshow Monkey Art. And then just since we're talking music, you know, when I do my videos, my speed paint videos, it's all music. I do this electronic, more mixed between cinematic and 80s Carpenter stuff, you know, which is big these days. But yeah, so my band name is called Zorgon, Zorgon. So check them out on the same Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, all that. So, but thank you guys. This has truly been an honor.
Man, it's been awesome. It's been a pleasure. All right. So as far as me, you're on my channel, so you know where to find me. If you go to circworks.com, all my digital products right now are 40% off. And if you want to learn how to make comics on this channel that you're at right now, there is a series called Making Comics 101 that takes you step by step how to make comics. And you can either watch it from start to finish, or you can just dive in any particular area you want. If you just want to learn how to ink, go to the inking episode or whatever. So definitely check that out.
It is very thorough and informative, I will say.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of work, but now that it's done, it's just like, oh, I got it done. I'm proud that I got that out there. So
but now you got the pressure of what's the next thing.
Yeah, that's right now. It's
tough, right?
Yeah, the content right now is a little here and there, but I will get back to.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, I will get back to doing some cool stuff. So I've just got to figure out where I'm going with everything. But I'm still putting out regular content and everything. So
awesome.
Yeah, and as far as the show that we do, the Artcasters, we do this every week, usually on Thursday, usually around 9 p.m. Pacific time. But you know, it's possible that one of us might get busy when we have to switch the day or whatever, or whatever. Also, sometimes YouTube doesn't always share when we're getting ready to post a new episode. So if you want to know exactly when we're going to go live, who our guest is, all that kind of stuff, we've got a mailing list, and we don't spam you or anything like that. Usually about 30 minutes ahead of time, we will send a link out. So just join. There's a link in the description. And join the mailing list, and you always know when we're going to go live. Also in the description, there are links to Josh and myself, and both David's. They're clickable links to both David's YouTube channel and his website. So definitely check that out. And yeah, thank you to everyone in the chat. I appreciate, and we had a lot of stuff. I'm sorry I didn't get to everyone. We got a lot of cool comments on there. But thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks for David coming on, and yeah, we definitely like to have you back, David. So but hang on after the show. Don't.
A lot of fun. So
yeah.
Be part of it.
Yeah, we'll see everyone next week, and we'll be on Josh's channel. So so definitely also. So I forgot to mention that, but we do switch back and forth. So yeah, go check out that. Click on that link, join the mailing list, so you know whose channel we're going to be on. So we'll see everyone next week.
Great.